case to you tonight how important nutrition is for your overall health. So what I want to do, and maybe some of you have seen this video already, but what I want to do is show you a video that hopefully illustrates how important nutrition and the food that we put in our mouth is for your health.
So today I'm going to do a little experiment on myself. You know that old adage, you are what you eat? Well, today I hope to prove that to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to eat an unhealthy meal, an unhealthy fast food meal, and then I'm going to come back a week later and I'm going to eat a healthier alternative. By eating that unhealthy fast food meal, we'll visually be able to see all the fat that ends up in my blood. So what Nurse Tony is doing here is taking my baseline blood draw. This will be the blood draw that we'll compare all other blood draws to. Did I mention how much I hate needles? So thanks, Dave and Dr. Wentz, for putting me up to this. Just kidding. Well, first one down. Well, here it is. I never eat like this, but anything for science. Cheers. Just going to test my blood. So what I'm going to do now is take the tube of blood that Nurse Tony collected, I'm going to put it in the centrifuge and we're going to spin it. And what that's going to do is settle the red blood cells down at the bottom of the tube, and so then we'll be able to see the serum or the liquid component of the blood. Okay, here's our blood tube. So you can see here on your left is that baseline blood draw we took before I ate the meal. And here, as soon as 1.5 hours after I ate that fast food meal, you can see how cloudy that is compared to the baseline sample. Well, here we are, we're back again. I'm taking the baseline blood draw for my healthy meal. So this is more like a nice side salad here. We've got chicken breast and some rice, and then a piece of rye bread. Well, here we are, spinning out my blood draw, comparing the healthy meal to the baseline. And as you can see clearly, there's not a whole lot of difference between the baseline and that second blood draw. And then when we compare that with last week's sample after eating the fatty meal at the same time point, you can clearly see there's a huge difference between the healthy meal and that fatty fast food meal.
I'm not sure why you're applauding. I mean, a human was harmed in the making of that video, but thank you for that. But can you see? It shows up pretty well, I think, on the screen. But can you see that fat that's ended up in my bloodstream after I've eaten that burger? Right? That's literally the butter that's in my bloodstream that's circulating and bathing my cells, tissues, and organs with nutrition. So what's the take-home message I want for you all? What you're putting in your mouth actually matters. I mean, have you ever thought about why we eat food? Why do we eat food? Right? To get the nutrition. Have you ever thought about what we're composed of? What are we composed of? Cells. Perfect. What are those cells composed of? Molecules, right? Where do those molecules come from? We're not plants. Right? We don't make them from the sun. We're not solar powered. Right? Those molecules come from the food and the dietary supplements we put in our mouth. We are literally products of the food that we eat. Have you ever thought about that? We are products of the food that we eat. So let's talk about this for a second. What happens when I eat that burger? Well, they enter our GI system, right? Our GI system is nothing more than a disassembly line, right? It's going to chop it up into tiny little bits. Those then get absorbed into our bloodstream, gets into circulation like you just saw, and that's what bathes our cells, tissues, and organs, and is what we are composed of. I want you to think about that. It's poignant. We are composed of the food that we eat. So this is a very conservative nutrition panel of that hamburger. Most hamburgers that we eat are probably 5 times that value. What's not shown on here is the vitamin and mineral composition of that hamburger. That hamburger only has, let's say, 10% of the vitamin C that I'll need every day. And that's 10% of the RDA. And if you've been around USANA for any length of time, you know that the RDAs are just a starting point of where human nutrition can be. So what if you ate that hamburger for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? How much vitamin C would you be getting? 30%. Now, you don't have to be a mathematician, but that's nowhere near 100%, is it? And that's, again, if you believe the RDAs are enough for optimal nutrition. So, anybody recognize this? Anybody been to Japan? It's a pretty complicated subway map, right? But just like if you want to get from one end of Tokyo to the other, you might jump on the red line, have to transition at the blue line to get to the green line to get to the other end of town, right? Well, you know what? We used to have to take rickety old subway trains, right? One end of the town to the other. But our cells actually have a very similar roadmap. So the food that we eat, those molecules that we're getting from our blood, they can enter anywhere they want in the city. You take the red line onto the blue line to get to the green line to make something. Make a molecule in our cells, maybe make energy, whatever we need. Our cells can convert things into other things. Now, I have quintessential proof that at one point in my life, I had that entire thing memorized. So this was me my first year in graduate school. But, let's get that guy off of there. But a subway is one way to think about it. But another way that I like to think about it is as an assembly line. Right? So if our GI tract is a disassembly line, those molecules entering our cells, this pathway is really an assembly line to make all of the things that we're composed of. Right? So let's talk about this analogy a little bit. Right? Here's an assembly line, a car assembly line.